Thank you, Sophie. Hopefully everyone can now see me. So welcome everyone, and it's great to have been invited to have been here. And yeah, the title of today, maybe it's this morning, maybe it's this afternoon, depending on where in the world you are, is coaching for COVID-19, or coaching for COVID. And that's a phrase that me and my colleagues have been using recently because it's an initiative that we launched a few weeks ago when the lockdown first happened here in Dubai. We realized that coaches have a unique set of skills and abilities that we realized we really couldn't hold back from, I guess, the general public. That people were feeling trapped, maybe lost, maybe worried, scared, anxious, angry, and there was a need for people to have some tools to support themselves, maybe to support others in their family, maybe even their colleagues. And so we put together the initiative, and that initiative is still running, and it is running every Monday evening for an hour and a half, timing depending on where you are. And I can give the link to that, and we can post the links to that later on for people who are curious. But we've had some learnings, and we've had some, I guess, stories as a result of that, and that's why we're here today. And as the subtitle says here, how a few shifts in our thinking and behavior can support those around us and ourselves, and that's why we're here today. And so my intention is to present to you for maybe 20 minutes, maybe slightly longer. As we go, if you've got any questions, as Sophie was saying, please feel free to jot them down in the chat box. Let us know. I'll be happy to answer them either as we go or at the end. So let's get going. So just to let you know a little bit about us, North Point Academy. Our coaching philosophy is that it's our intention to be building transformational communities of people living from the inside out. And that's our kind of our big overarching goal. And the question is, well, what does that mean? And it means these four things. It means that when we're coaching people from a place of authenticity, displayed by genuine warmth, empathy, and vulnerability. It means we're coaching from the inside out, which means that we're working with each client's thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And we're trusting that we're not in the conversation with them in order to have someone just change how they behave. No, instead, we want people to wake up from the inside. And as number 3 says, walk out of our own cave and see things as they truly are. And lastly, it means that we see all people as objects of greatness. And that all comes together. And we see the potential and we see the future in families, in geographies, in workplaces, of people waking up to themselves and then being able to not only help themselves grow, but help each other grow and move forward in their lives. And we call these transformational communities. Now, in the Coaching for COVID initiative, we recognize that there's a lot of uncertainty. And we've identified, we think, 3 areas where people are most uncertain. One is health, of course, but there's also the financial, and then there's the social impact as well. And through coaching, people and ourselves, we can become more self-aware. We can be better able to adapt to what's going on. We can develop more resilience. And we can help ourselves to focus on opportunities that maybe previously we were not able, or we had not thought to focus on before. We were able to shift from being in a space of problems and drama, being able to shift more into the space of looking ahead and towards what's possible. And then lastly, that space of helping others. So when we have our own house in order and we have our own support in place, we're then able to help and support others. So that's kind of who we are, but who am I? Well, this is me and my wife on our wedding day, actually, which is just over 3 years ago. So I am a ICF certified professional coach. What does that mean? It means that I've been through training myself. It means that I've had, according to the ICF, I've attained a sufficient standard, which means I've done a minimum of 500 hours of coaching and a variety of other significant things. I've got more than 10 years experience of working in this field, and I am the co-founder, together with Sarah Anthony, who's in the UK, of North Point Academy. And what does North Point Academy do? Primarily, we have a flagship, which is our coach training program, our certificate in professional coaching. And the people who graduate from that program, they become our champions in building those transformational communities. I've lived in Dubai since 2006, and as I said before, I'm married and we have 2 dogs and 4 cats, so we have a busy household. So what's our intention today? I apologize, it says tonight, but it should be saying today. And that's by the end of our time today, we have firstly recognized where we ourselves are today during this crisis, and that we've learned some practical tools to care for both ourselves and others that we can put into practice from tomorrow, from today, immediately. I want to give you some things that are not just ideas, but tools that you can use and that can help you and can help others. I'm just going to pause there, see if there are any questions that people may have. See if anything comes up. I'm looking at the chat now. And if there's nothing there, that's no problem at all, and we will continue. I'd like you to have some thought for yourself as we move ahead, that even though this is the intention that I'm expressing now, what is it that you would like to get out of your time, either being here now on this call, or perhaps you're listening to this or watching this as a recording? What is your intention having watched this recording? What is it you'd like to get out of the situation? And just give you a moment to consider for yourself while I have some of my coffee. So let's move forward. And the first thing I want to introduce you to is what is the very core and the very foundation of our understanding and our work at the North Point Academy. We call this the North Point Metamodel. It's a metamodel because it's the model from which all other models that we have and all other practice and work that we do is built. And it's something that we think is in some ways very simple, but it's also quite profound and deep and has implications in many different situations and across all circumstances. And simply it tells us that there is an internal world. I think you can all see my cursor. So an internal world, and there's an external world. And that we have an internal world, and that is the world of our thoughts and our feelings. And then there is an external world of our actions, and then the impact that we get. And actually, this is cyclical, that when I act and I have an impact, part of the impact is that it gives me new thought. It gives others new thought. And so it's our understanding that the way that we think, the thoughts that we have, they lead to the feelings that we feel. How we feel opens the door to the actions that we take, and the actions that we take result in the impact that we get. So in our work as coaches, in coaching, working with our clients, we find it's very important, highly important for us to actually help our clients identify what is going on within them in their internal world that's resulting in the kind of impact that they're getting in their external world. And so I ask you now, in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, what's going on within you? What's going on in your internal world that's contributing to the situation and the impact that you're getting in your external world? Maybe you're trapped at home with your partner, your spouse, your children, and maybe there are new impacts happening there. Maybe you're still unable to go back to your office and you're struggling in terms of the work. Maybe you're going back to the office, but things are different. They're not as they were before. So what is going on within you, within your internal world, in the space of your thoughts and your feelings, that's contributing to the impact that you're having around you? One of my early experiences of seeing this model, this pattern take place was, and this is just to give you an example, is to give you a brief story, was working with a gentleman who was working for a bank. He was a manager. And I remember him telling me, Matt, I don't understand when I'm having a bad day, I'm feeling down, I don't want to be there in the office. For some reason, people don't want to be around me, and I don't know what to do. And so I saw that he had been telling me how he feels, that he feels down, that he'd been telling me his thinking, I don't want to be there. And he'd been telling me the impact that people don't want to be around him. And what he hadn't told me was the actions that he took. And I asked him a few times around his action. And each time he would, in some ways, avoid or not see, and he'd continue to tell me about his thoughts and feelings and continue to tell me about the impact that he was having. I finally said to him, okay, so when you're feeling down and people don't want to be around you and you don't want to be there, so I'm pushing aside all the other things, what are you doing? What action are you taking? And he pauses and he goes inside himself. And a couple of seconds later, he comes back and he says, I withdraw myself. And in that moment, that was a new insight for him. He realized that when he was thinking that he doesn't want to be there and he's feeling down, his instinctive default behavior is to withdraw himself, which results in people not wanting to be around him. And that knowledge, that insight, that empowered him, that empowers him. And it allows him to either to choose to do a different behavior so that people might want to be around him. It also empowers him to notice how he's thinking and feeling, and perhaps he wants to think about different things or noticing about his thinking so that he feels differently and therefore he acts differently. And thirdly, maybe he just wants to accept it. Maybe he wants to say, you know what, when I'm having a bad day and I'm feeling down and I don't want to be there, I'm going to withdraw, and then people are not going to want to be around me. And actually for that day, that's okay for me. I can accept that, and I can accept the impact of what happens, because the next day I'm going to be in a better place. And so in that moment of insight, it shifted from something that he couldn't do anything about, shifted from like it seemed like people could magically see inside himself and they were doing things that he couldn't control. He shifted from being in some ways a victim of the situation and of himself into being much more in the space of being able to do something about it. And so I invite you now to have some thoughts about that for yourself. And as you look at those four spaces of thinking, feeling, acting, and the impact that you get, which is the one of those four spaces that for you find the most challenging? Is it to know your own thinking? Is it to accept how you feel? And by feelings, we're talking about things that we feel in our bodies. And they're often described in like single words. I'm feeling angry, frustrated, annoyed. Is it to be able to choose the action that you're going to take? Or is it being responsible for the impact that you have? And it's from this that all of the rest of our tools are built. And I'd like to introduce you to a few tools, a few coaching tools that we use in our coaching practice, that we teach our students, and that we now have many people around the UAE and the UK using and finding benefit from. And the first, what I want to give to you, is a tool that we call commencement. And this is a 3-step tool, and we use this at the beginning of a meeting, we use this at the beginning of a coaching session, and also it can be used by oneself, for oneself. And the purpose of commencement is to help us become present. What does that mean? That means, how can I shift myself in my thinking and in my being from wherever I am into being here and being here in the now? How often have you had that experience where you realize that you're not present, that your mind is somewhere else, either in the past, thinking about what has happened, or in the future, imagining perhaps being anxious about what will happen? An example there is, and it's very commonly stated, that one of the biggest fears is the fear of public speaking, and often that comes from the thoughts that the person is having around the potential and possible negative future about their public speaking experience. Perhaps that's you. So commencement is 3 steps that help us see for ourselves what's happening on the inside, and take action and take measures that help us become present. So step 1 is to say, what are the objects of thought currently having an impact? 2, what's the emotion? And 3, what action, if any, do I need to take to be fully present? So I even used this just before we started this session, as I was coming on, before I connected with the Zoom, and before I spoke with Sophie. At the time, I was running a little bit behind on time. I wasn't quite in that relaxed place I wanted to be, and so I stopped and I said, okay, what are the objects of thought? I'm having thoughts that I'm running late, and I'm having thoughts that because of that I feel underprepared, and the emotion that's coming up is some anxiety. I can feel my heart beginning to go a bit faster. And so I recognized that I was able to step back from the situation. And so the action that I decided to take was to notice and go, Matt, just notice that this is how you're thinking, this is how you're feeling, and that's resulting in you now feeling less present, you being less present. So notice it, choose to know that these are just thoughts and feelings that you're having, and allow yourself to come back to the present. So I'm curious for you to do this for yourself. So right now, using that powerful muscle that you have called attention, what are the objects of thought right now currently having an impact? And knowing that every thought leads to an emotion, what is the emotion that's going on within you from having those thoughts? And then lastly, What action, if any, do you need to take to be fully present? It might be to notice it. It might be to put it aside. Perhaps you need to send that quick WhatsApp message. And having done that, now pay attention to yourself. How are you different to how you were before? And typically, people find that they are feeling more focused and more present. And we found this to be powerful, not only for us to use for ourselves, but to use with other people in a work setting, even virtually through Zoom, Teams, whatever it is that your organization is using. At the beginning of a meeting, just very briefly, very concisely, we can use this tool. It doesn't take long, it can take 30 seconds per person. And you can focus it. So what's the primary object of thought currently having any impact? How do I feel? And what do I need to do? And in a different context, I mean, even within the family. No, I don't sit down with my wife and say, what's the object of thought currently having any impact? That might feel weird and clunky and awkward, but I might just say, hey, what's on your mind right now? And how do you feel? And can I tell you what's on my mind and how I feel? And perhaps you and your partner are working at home. Maybe one of you's in the bedroom and one of you's in the living room, and you're trying to work on your own work virtually, but you're also in the same space. And this can be a useful way to check in with each other through the day. Love, I know I've just been on a call for 2 hours. Can I check in with you? How's the last 2 hours been? What are you thinking about? How do you feel? And here's how I am. So this is commencement. And before we finish, we'll end up with another tool called completion, which they're like bookends to a conversation. This is our first tool, commencement. The second tool is intention setting. And actually, we did this earlier in the session, in our call today. But it itself is a tool, and it's to ask ourselves, or we ask the other person, or we even ask the team or the group, is what do we want to have achieved by the end of this meeting, appointment, workshop, time together? How will we know that this meeting has been a success? So it's in our minds, taking ourselves to the end of our time and looking back and saying, when this, let's say, when this meeting has been a success, how will we know? What will have happened? It helps us have a clear perspective and picture of what success looks like. It helps everyone stay on track. Who here has been in a meeting that you've been called to, you've been invited to, you get there and you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what the purpose of this meeting is. And you look around and it kind of looks like everyone else is in the same place as you. You've got folks on their laptops and others on their mobile phones, and someone who is presenting from the front, and no one's really paying that much attention to them. Perhaps folks are just there to do their piece and then to leave. People are coming in and coming out. And you get to the end of a 4-hour meeting and no one really knows what has been achieved. Well, as a result of clearly setting the intention at the beginning, everyone can know why they are there. And this is for me a positive, being in the meeting where after the intention has been set, someone says, I think I don't need to be at this meeting. And then they're able to leave, and in good faith, both with themselves and with others. And we've had lots of stories of people saying that this tool alone has helped them in terms of knowing why they're there, in terms of their business, in terms of what they're spending their time, their energy, and their life on. And parents who are here, I invite you, I challenge you with your kids, if they're old enough, maybe ask them, hey, so what is it that you're wanting to achieve? What is it that you're wanting to achieve, or how will you know that this, I don't know, coming or present school year is a success for you? What's most important to you for you to be seeing at the end of this term, this week, this day? I think I have a couple more tools for us to pay attention to. Now, particularly in this current time, we often find that it's easy to get into that perhaps negative emotional space, that space of being in our problems and in our drama. And we call this model the levels of attention. And the purpose of this model is to look at the model and the 5 levels, so the vision, the strategy, tactics, problems, drama, and to consider, where am I in my attention? And I don't mean to say where am I, because you might be in some problems. There may be drama around you, but where are you in your attention? How are you thinking? And wherever you are, there's no judgment there. The real question is, where do you want to be? So if you're in your drama, it's all about the emotion, how you feel. If you're in your problems, your attention will be around, this is wrong and I've got to fix this and this is not going right. Tactics is all about getting steps done. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Strategy is the ways in which you will get there. And then vision is, okay, this is where I'm going to. I mean, it's not a matter of working your way up the mountain. No, it's a matter of where am I now in terms of my thinking and my attention. And also, where do I want to be? So I invite you now, in all that's going on for you today, in your world and in your life, where are you right now with this model? Where are you right now? And wherever you are, just notice where you are and ask yourself the question, for me to achieve the intention that I have, let's say for this day, where's the most powerful place for me to be? Do I need to be on top of the mountain and identifying what the goal is and where I want to go? Is it that I know where I want to go and I need to spend some time on how I'm going to get there? Or is it that I know where I'm going, I know how to get there, but I need to actually give attention to getting the things done? Having looked at yourself, we can now step back and consider other people. And if you're in a position where you're in conversation with someone and you have a responsibility, so for me as a client, so as a coach, I have clients, but perhaps you're a manager, perhaps you're a leader, perhaps you're a parent. So in that conversation I'm having with the other person, at what level am I listening? Am I maybe only listening to their tactics, or am I listening for the bigger situation? And then also, to what level is my, and it says here client, but what level is my client? You could put employee, you could put child, you could put spouse. To what level are they giving attention? Perhaps they are in their problems and drama. Are you paying attention? You can recognize this and go, ah, okay. So this is why they're behaving in the way that they're behaving. They're giving their attention to problems and drama. So that probably means they're going to be feeling anxious, scared, whatever it is. And this gives some clarity to why they're behaving in the way they're behaving. And maybe they're behaving in unhelpful ways. Perhaps I can show them this. Perhaps I can help them to recognize where their thinking is and where they would like to shift their attention to. And as you're watching this, feel free to take screenshots, use your phone. All these models, we've made them completely available to everyone for free, as long as they were used for non-commercial use. So if you want to use these in your private situation, please go right ahead. Before we get to the end, the last major tool I want to give to you, which we think and we've seen is helpful, particularly in this situation, is a tool that we call the circles of control, influence, and interest. And particularly in this time, we found it very easy for people to recognize that they are feeling lost or scared or out of control in some way. And so what this says is that there are three circles. There's a circle of control, things that you can completely control. There's a circle of influence, where you have a level of interest, and a circle of interest, where you have no control and you have no interest. And then let's be curious about what goes into those circles. Well, what might go into a circle of interest, things for which you have no control and no influence. Or typically we would put in there the weather, the traffic, the stock market. Maybe now we can put in coronavirus. And how about the circle of influence? Well, the circle of influence is other people and situations involving other people. So this could be my family, my workplace, my colleagues, my boss. And then the circle of control. And really the circle of control is quite small, but it is my thoughts and my feelings and my action. And so often we see that someone says, oh, but so-and-so, they make me so angry. And in doing so, in many ways, they're moving their feelings into their circle of influence. That person can make me feel angry. And there's something quite disempowering about that. Often people do feel disempowered or even a victim. And what this model shows us is that because we know that feelings come from thoughts, that the way I'm feeling about a situation, the way I'm feeling about a person, or whatever it is, comes from how I think, and that's down to me. And I may not like that, but it is part of me and it's part of my responsibility. And it's my responsibility to know my thoughts and to accept my feelings so that I can choose action that has the kind of impact that I want to have in my circle of influence. So I invite you now, in what's going on in your life, in those areas where maybe you feel somewhat out of control. Are you placing something in the wrong space? In our weekly calls for coaching for COVID, many times we've had people come back and give us feedback that as a result of using this tool and the other tools that we have, they've gained a sense of self-control. that they don't have to feel so lost and confused. Although, yes, this is an uncontrollable situation, this is fully in their circle of interest. They can say, I understand, and that's okay. I can accept them. In another example, there was a lady working for a corporate in Dubai, and the feedback she gave from grasping this model was, I realized that I don't have to try and control all of the outcome and the impact that I get. That I'm responsible for my thinking and my feeling and my action. And then the impact, yes, I take responsibility for it, but I can't control it. Whatever happens, I can then see the impact and I can make a new decision. And for her, it was like a weight off her shoulders. And perhaps that resonates with you. I'm going to pause there because really all I have left is a completion model, which I told you about at the beginning. And I'd like to leave that right to the end. Perhaps there are some questions, perhaps there aren't. But if there are any questions, let me pause now and let me check in with Sophie and see how we're doing, if any questions have come in or any thoughts. And if not, then we'll carry on towards the last model, which we call completion. Sophie, how are we doing?
Hey Matt, so far so good, and no questions at the moment. So I think you can carry on.
Great, and we'll bring it to a close. Before we bring it to a close, Sophie, will you be able to share out links and stuff later?
What I can do is I can share all of the attendees' email addresses, and you can maybe reach out to them.
Great. And will there be a post on social where we can post links? Is that possible?
Yeah, or you can pop your links in the chat bar, and then people can copy and paste.
So we can do that. And just to let everyone know, so I want to invite you all to join us on a Monday night. So UAE time is 7:30, UK time is 4:30 in the afternoon. And I will type it into the chat box, but I'll also say it. So the place to go to, and we have one of these clever short codes. So it's npa.news/C4C. And C4C stands for Coaching for COVID. And we'd like to invite you to come and join us. If this has been powerful for you today and you'd like to actively get involved, the sessions, unlike this session, which was very much me telling you and giving you stories, these sessions are more of a workshop online. And there are a number of coaches, all from our academy, and we come together and then in small groups, we work through what's currently working and currently impacting us. It's all for free. Lastly, I want to say that we have regular coach training. If that is something that you'd like to get involved in, please reach out to us. Our social handles everywhere, so that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn is at NPA HQ. So North Point Academy headquarters, NPA HQ. Please reach out to us if there's any interest that you have there. So just to come to a close, the last tool we have is completion. And this is a great way to bring a meeting to a close or a workshop or a session. And it's just to have each person say, what do I now feel? So that's a one-word emotion. And lastly, what do I need to say to be complete?